Okay, so this is the messaging API workshop. You're going to be doing a lot of work now. So the idea of these workshops is that we get to experience something new, something you wouldn't normally try in your day-to-day jobs. So hopefully we'll make it fun. So it's going to be a 3-hour workshop. I've got a number of exercises to follow. So I sent out a link which had a VM on it, a VM link, and some instructions on how to connect to that. Can anyone indicate whether they've managed to successfully access the remote desktops? And does anyone need any assistance doing that? And if you haven't seen the link, check your email. It would have come from Zoom around 12 o'clock. Okay, getting one message saying unable to connect. So I'll just share what basically the process for connecting, just to see. Okay, some people don't have the email. Maybe some people. Okay, so you've got the VM on, and someone didn't get the email. So maybe check your spam folder to see if you got anything from Zoom. Just seeing here. So, so Rashid, you got the email. Alexandre and Larry didn't get it, and there's a few others that said they didn't get the email. So I'll try and sort all that out, and once we get to that point, I'll give you a walkthrough of what we're going to be getting through today. Okay. So I can attempt to send the email again. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm going to need 2 hands to do this. So there was a stand around here for the microphone. Does anyone know where that is? We're working with that this morning. So. Okay, so okay, for all those just joining, I made it a few. I'm just trying to sort out some technical details. I did send out an email via Zoom, and some people didn't get the email, so I'm going to just try and send that out again. So I'm going to, great, thanks. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to be sort of typing as we go in. So, right. Let me just move the chat out the way for the moment so I can see things. So this confirmation email should be going out. It's got some new instructions on there for connecting to the VM. So send that out to the first page. Yeah, I have to do it page by page, so bear with me. Okay. So yeah, you should see an email like this. And there's a section here that has the link to the virtual machine. So you can click on that and it will ask you to sign in with Microsoft's account. So the password is on the email. It's the text CM 2020 £. So when you're on this page, you can click. You'll have to click on the this button here. It should be stopped when you first go in, and then you can click on running, and then you can click on this desktop application, desktop icon here to give you the RDP file. And then when you open that, you should get a sign on, and then enter the password from your email. So now it's connecting. Okay. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen, am I? Okay, yeah, so you're not, yeah, I got a message saying you're not seeing what I'm seeing. So I need to clarify that. So just hold on 1 second. I'm just going to update that. So what are you seeing on the screen? Are you seeing that, or are you seeing the VM server? Sorry? Seeing that? So yeah, I'm not sure what I'm, it says I'm screen sharing. Let me stop and start again. Yeah. Hold on. Right, let's try this again. It's a 3-hour session and I knew there'd be technical issues, so please bear with me. Oh, it's because I'm sharing a single application. Let me share my entire screen, my entire monitor. Oh, I thought everyone could sign on the same account. Oh, okay. Do you know if Ricardo's around? Oh, yeah. So just bear with me a second. Okay, so I think we're, I've got some people are signing on. So Jean-Pierre says he received an email, but it's only the conference Zoom link. And yeah, apologies, I was sharing the wrong screen, so you weren't seeing what I was doing before. I will repeat those steps. Okay, yeah, and I've got confirmation. Thanks, George. Let me know. So some people are in. I'm going to be doing an introduction to this, so you can be trying to sign in while I'm doing the introduction, and I'll work on individual issues to get you all started. So, okay. So I'll just repeat the process again because I was just talking to myself. So you should receive an email like this from Zoom. And there will be a link here to labs.azure.com. When you click on that, it will take you to, well, it'll ask you to sign on with your Microsoft account. You'll see my virtual machines here, and this toggle will be set to stopped when you first go in, and it takes a couple of minutes to start up. So just wait until that's turns to running. Click on the icon to the virtual machine, and it will give you a download for a .rdp file for remote desktop. And if you click on that, it will open remote desktop, ask you to sign on. And the password is this TechCM 2020. So hopefully that will get some of you in. So I'll do the introduction now, and then we can sort of work on individual issues. Okay, yeah, so I've got some successful people connecting, so that's great. Okay, so this is the messaging API workshop. So we'll be looking at a tool called SendGrid, which allows you to send emails to different customers. And also we're looking at APIs in general. So Plex itself doesn't really have any API support, but we'll kind of give you some techniques for be able to use APIs. If you saw Abram's talk this morning, he talked about some of the techniques we can use. So we'll basically expand on that and go into a bit more detail. So we're going to look at APIs and some associated tools like Postman that Abram showed this morning. Then we'll look at the SendGrid messaging API. So we're just building on a solution that we built for one of our customers, and then look at other APIs. Okay, so I'm Andrew Leggett, CM First. I've done a few presentations already, so you've probably seen those. Okay, so I'm going to just give you an introduction here. We're going to look at the learning goals, what you can hope to achieve from this workshop. Then I'll go into some detail on the SendGrid service itself. And then I know you're all sort of various levels of expertise working with APIs and stuff. Some people may be very familiar, some people complete novices. That's fine, because I'll kind of walk you through, explain what all the terms are. And then we'll take a look at the application that you're going to be working with. So you'll be getting some hands-on experience with that, making a few changes in Plex, and trying out some new things for that. So you're going to be learning about the SendGrid services and API itself. And then I'll go into a discussion of APIs and webhooks as well, which we'll be using for this. Look at the Postman API platform, and see what that can give us when we're working with APIs. and then we'll look into consuming APIs from a Plex application. So as I was saying earlier, the idea is for you to try some new things, give you ideas, and be able to maybe take those ideas into your own applications. So yeah, hopefully it'll be interesting to you all. Okay, so SendGrid. So this is a service from a company called Twilio, and they manage the large-scale distribution of email and SMS messages. So for this workshop, we'll only be doing the email part of it, but it could have been extended to include text messages as well. So their service provides rich customizable templates. So you can have templates with HTML and make them look flashy, or you can just have simple text-based ones, and we'll look at the differences there. And one of the key features of SendGrid is that it can track the status of the messages. So it knows when a message is being delivered or if it's been blocked. It knows if you've opened any links on the email or if you've unsubscribed. So it'll keep track of the status of each individual message that's sent out to each individual recipient. And you can get that information in real time. And one of the big pluses about this is that you don't have to administer your own mail servers. So you don't have to worry about maintaining a server, applying patches and security, everything like that. SendGrid will do all this for you. And that's kind of one of the key advantages of using APIs and services like this is that, in the past you used to have huge data centers and mail servers and everything set up within your own organization. But with the use of APIs, you can manage a lot of like functions and that your corporation uses. You can kind of offload that to someone sort of better set up for large scale operations. And you can just use these services on demand. So for something like this, I've heard, customers in the past have their own mail servers when they want to send out emails. You don't have to worry about that anymore if you use a service like this. So SendGrid itself, it's got 80,000 customers and some quite high profile ones. And it claims to send out well over 1 trillion messages a year, which is a lot. And of course, we're looking at the API integration for this. So we'll be using RESTful APIs. So Abram did a good talk this morning on REST. So we'll be explaining kind of what APIs are. There's the workshop guide that you'll be going through has got a long explanation about the architecture and how to call these things. So it's going to go into a lot more detail than I'm going to go in for this introduction. But basically, REST APIs allow you to call web services using HTTP architecture. So it's just the same architecture that you'd use in a web browser. So it's high performance, it's scalable. So you can manage, millions of requests. And the response that you'll get back from these APIs was typically in a JSON format, XML or HTML. So we'll be working with JSON format, and I'll have an explanation of that in the document if you're unfamiliar. And it just makes it very easy to work with as a programmer. It kind of breaks down a lot of the barriers that you used to have consuming web services. And the SendGrid service uses what's called webhooks. So just an explanation of what a webhook is. It's known as, often called a reverse API. And it's basically a way for the API provider to communicate with you on demand. So for instance, if you're sending out a mail shot to SendGrid and you want to keep track of all your messages, then if you want to check the individual status of a message, you can request and see what it is, but that will only give you the status of as it is that second. So if you really want like live data on what's happening, you would have to continuously poll that information, and it's not very practical to do that. So with the use of a webhook, SendGrid will just send you a message or a JSON object anytime that something actually changes. So all you need to do is basically monitor, you basically provide an address for them, and they will send you that data back. So you just have to monitor that data coming in and update it. So we'll be using Postman. So Abram mentioned that again this morning. So it's very useful, easy to use tool. So we'll be trying out some APIs and sort of looking at the responses that come back. So we'll just be basically scraping the surface of what it can provide. But there are so many features in there, but we'll just be looking at making the requests, viewing the responses, but beyond that, it allows for automatic testing, and it can simulate API servers as well. So with regards to Plex, it doesn't have any API support built in, obviously, so you'd need to use source code objects. So the application we're developing is Java. Just because we have familiarity with it, it can be extended to other platforms. But really, what we need to be able to make the request is the ability to go and send data to an address using HTTP, and then get the response back, and then convert that response into Plex fields that you can use in your application. So you'll be seeing that in action and getting to work with that. And basically the way we're going to set it up is that it will work just like any other Plex function. So you just pass it in the parameters, it'll make the call, fetch the response, and update the output fields for that function. So it's just like calling any other function in Plex. So you'll be working with a Plex application, which is a conference messaging application. So this is just something that I set up myself based on the SendGrid solution that we developed for the customer. So one thing to note about this is that it uses a shared database. So you'll all be using the same database. And what the application will do is we'll let you set up your own conference, set up events within the conference, set up the attendees, and then we're going to set up some SendGrid templates so you can make your own emails and then send them out, and yeah, be able to manage all the email communication between the conference organizers and the attendees. And the whole application is a Java Swing application generated in Plex. I'll try and give you a demonstration of what that looks like. So I'm just going to okay, so making sure there's no one in the waiting room. Yep, okay. So just switch over to the remote desktop. So we'll be using Eclipse for this. If you're not familiar with it, it will be explained in the notes. So just before, while I'm loading up the workspace, you'll see that all the workshop materials are in a folder called Conference 2021 Workshops, and then Messaging Workshop. And we have shortcuts here for Eclipse or Postman. They're also on the desktop as well. So just going into the workspace now. While that's loading up, yeah, Jean-Pierre and Alexandra, okay, well, it looks like, and Rashid as well, looks like they're sorted out. So looks like they worked out between themselves. Okay, we're good, yeah. So I was just gonna, anyone that can't access the VM at the moment, just put a message in the chat and I'll deal with you after this introduction. So these VMs are a little slow, so just give that a minute to start up. Okay, so we're in Eclipse now. So there's a shortcut up here on there's like a green circle with a white triangle in there. This is in the instructions, but I'm just showing you. And you'll see an option called Conference App. Okay. So I see someone's already entered some data. But yeah, we have basically our conferences here on the main screen. And so what you'll be asked to do, just to keep everyone's data separate, is set up your own conference. So I've got the Andrew Leggett Fan Club conference here. It's a real thing. Obviously, we need to be in, it's hosted in Wembley Stadium in London, because there's so many people for that. And so when you're working with your own conference, you've got some buttons at the bottom that let you navigate within that conference. So you'll need to set up some attendees. And so here I've got a list of all the contacts that have been added to the database, and I can choose who to include. You can add attendees to your conference, and then these are the people that will be receiving the emails. You can also set up a role for them, whether they're attendee, speaker, or organizer. Now, just one note on this. So one technical difficulty I'm going to have is that there are 30 of us doing this workshop, and that's great. One problem that causes for me is that I'm using a trial account with SendGrid, and it has a limit of 100 emails a day. So with 30 people, and you're going to be sending out a number of emails each, I've done the math, and yeah, that's going to be more than 100. So I know I'm going to reach my limit at some point. So yeah, I just ask you, when you set up your conferences, just basically set yourself as the attendee, even though the directions tell you otherwise. And when I do reach that limit, I will switch over to another account that'll give me another 100. And I'm hoping that's going to get us through the afternoon. Okay, so some messages coming through. One from David saying, I'm not hearing any audio. Is that true for anyone else? Can someone confirm they can hear me still?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So yeah, just to go back to a question, how to start the conference attendees. You basically select your conference on the first screen. So the first exercise, or the second exercise, I think will actually walk you through this. So don't worry about navigation for now. It should walk you through. I'm just kind of doing a walkthrough. But yeah, you will be able to see attendees on there just by clicking on the attendees button at the bottom. You can also set up events. So yeah, I've got an event like the messaging workshop, and then you can sort of set up who's going to be attending your workshop and set up individual attendees for these. And then we get to the messaging part. So we'll be setting up templates, and the documentation will walk you through that. But you'll be setting up none of these are actually good examples, but you'll be setting up templates with their own message subject and the message content. And then once you have those, you can go to this message request window and make the request and send the email out. So I won't do any of that just yet, but the documentation will guide you through all these screens so you'll become familiar with it. But basically that's what the exercise is based around, having a conference application and being able to message the attendees to the various events. So switch back. So just to talk about the solution that was developed for the customer, I wasn't actually involved in that project. I've just kind of inherited it for this workshop. So we do actually have an intermediate API that we use that talks to SendGrid rather than calling it directly from Plex, and that'll be explained in the notes. But basically, we had a WinC client running a desktop app that talked to a Plex Java server using the Java dispatcher, and that reads and writes to a central database. And when it wants to talk to SendGrid, it does it via this intermediate API. And I think the reasoning behind that, I wasn't in on the discussions, but I think the reasoning behind it was that they wanted to have something to listen for the webhook to come back. So all the APIs are going to be talking to our intermediate API, which sends and receives data from SendGrid. And then this intermediate API is updating the same database that we're using in Plex. And so then we can send that back and update on the screen. So again, this is explained in the document that comes with the workshop. So there's a document on there's PDF file that you'll find in that folder. And it has the API overview in a lot more detail than I've given to you now. So it's, you got a few pages to read. And then we have the discussion about REST APIs and webhooks and some extra information in there just to give you a better understanding if you're not familiar with it. And then we can look at the application architecture, how it works, and then we get to the actual exercises themselves. So the very first exercise we're going to do is we're going to use Postman, and we're going to work with a different API. It's the weather API. So we'll be able to request the current weather for your zip code or city. So I'll give you some examples to try there. Just give you an impression of how easy it is to make the API call, what the responses look like, and just give you some familiarity there. And then when we go into the second exercise where you set up your own conference, so you'll set up your conference itself, you'll set up yourself as a contact. So you're gonna have to enter yourself as a contact, give a valid email address where you can actually receive these emails to see what's coming out. Then you'll walk through being set up some events for that. And then we'll work with some messages. So you'll be setting up a static template and a dynamic template, and the document's going to explain that. And then the final exercise is we're going to make a call to the weather API from Plex and include that information in the email. So that goes into, that's kind of a deep exercise that kind of goes more into the workings of the SendGrid templates and actually using external API. So yeah, it should keep you busy. Obviously, some people are going to work a bit faster than others, and that's great. And if anyone finishes early, I'll put out a link to some maybe alternate APIs that you can try and basically apply the last exercise again, but using a different API. So you might have, I think there's some out there that have like a joke of the day or something like that, that you might want to get that information back and then include that into your email message. Okay, so that is the introduction. So you should all have the workshop folder, this messaging workshop PDF. So it's quite a hefty document. So I think it's like 45 pages, but most of it's pictures. So hopefully you won't have any trouble with that. But if you do, just put it in the chat and I'll try and sort out any problems there. So yeah, I'll let you go on with that. Just one hint, if you want to work in multiple windows at the same time, you can maybe drag your browser with the PDF file just to the side of the screen. And then if you're working in Eclipse, you can choose that to go in the other half. And that way you can kind of, yeah, read the document as you're working in Eclipse or Plex at the same time. So I'm just going to check the chat. So anyone have any questions? Also, well, Laurie's asking, didn't see how I started the application, so I'll just repeat it again, but you'll be doing it in the exercises. Actually, I will show you two things. So that brings up an interesting point. So Plex Java, when it runs, it doesn't show up in the taskbar at the bottom. So the only way you can see that it's working is if you Alt-Tab. Oops, I'm supposed to be tabbing from within here. Yeah, if I Alt-Tab, I can see it there that it's currently running. When you're doing builds, you'll obviously want to close that because you'll get errors if you try to build while it's running. So I think all the exercises that ask you to build, ask you to exit this application. And it's just a quick application I put together, so it's not necessarily the best practice, but you can close the close the application just by closing this main edit conferences screen. But alternatively, you can go to the console tab in Eclipse, and you'll see this red square, which is the terminate button, and that will end any current instances of the running application. So it's useful to check that to make sure that it's not actually running at the time, and then you can safely do your builds without having any problems building a running application. Okay, so the question where to get the PDF file, that is in the folder C, Conference 2021 Workshops, Messaging Workshop, and it's just called Messaging Workshop.pdf. And going back to how to launch the application from Eclipse, in Eclipse we have this sort of toolbar. There's this button here, which has the green circle with the white triangle. There's a drop down next to it, and you'll select Conference App and click on that, and it will launch it back up. So I'll see a few of you have already gone in and started to add some conferences. So the second exercise actually walks you through that whole process So make sure you follow that. But yeah, it looks like you're already in there and going ahead. So I will let you continue, and I will just monitor the chat for any issues that anyone has. So yeah, have fun and just let me know if you get stuck. Okay, thanks. Okay, for those working on the workshop, I'm going to start wrapping things up now. So it looks like I gave everyone too much to do. So there's some good exercises in there. So if you didn't finish it, the VMs will be available for up to 30 days, I believe. So on request, yeah. So if you want to continue today or later today, or I think they should be around for another day or so. What I recommend is if you go to your Azure page from the link that I gave you, you should see this My Virtual Machine setting. And then if you can just click on the toggle to stop it, and that will sort of maintain your application as it is. And then you can pick it up again tomorrow. So yeah, the last exercise was the one where you get to use the weather API. So I recommend getting to that one and giving that a go. So in the chat, did anyone actually finish the exercises? Okay, so yeah, look, it sounds like you're all pretty close. So yeah, so yeah, as I say, you can carry on now if you want, but yeah, if you need to sort of stop and kind of maintain your VM, then you can just go back to the Azure page and just stop it here. So yeah, I'm just going to wrap up. I think we've got yeah, something else for the next half an hour. So so yeah, on Alexandra, I think there's probably a little bit more on that exercise to get the weather details into the parameters, but yeah, the instructions are in there. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. If you didn't, let me know. You can probably send me an email through the application. So I did get a few people's emails coming through, so I know that it was working. Oh yeah, I'll just show you what I saw from the SendGrid dashboard. So I'll just move these out the way. So this is kind of the my free account that I'm looking at. I'm just going to refresh this. Yeah, this is kind of keeping track of all the messages that were sent. So this is from a few days ago when I was sort of testing this out. So it looks like today, yeah, we had like 45 requests. Yeah, 45 were delivered. 47 were open, which apparently that's not unusual to have more opens than messages. So yeah, you can see that some people clicked on the links, and we had one that was blocked. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but these are the sort of stats that you can see from the SendGrid dashboard. There's a whole bunch of other stats in here that are sort of too smart for me to understand. But if you want to try out SendGrid, then you can set up with a free account, and you have a limit of 100 emails a day. So yeah, so give that a try. And yeah, you can just email me if you still have any issues with the workshop after this is closed. Hopefully I'll be able to answer. So yep, thanks everyone. Yep, hope you enjoyed it. And I guess we'll carry on.